Hi, today we're going to talk about being a high school teacher. My name is April Barton. I'm one of the math teachers for Graduation Alliance, and I've been a high school math teacher for 12 years. For 7 years, I worked in traditional high schools where there's a physical place you go to, and now I've been working with Graduation Alliance as an online teacher for 5 years. So to become a teacher, in high school, I always enjoyed tutoring. I actually got jobs as a tutor, and I had a lot of supportive teachers that allowed me to teach a couple lessons. So I actually got a lot of experience being a teacher in high school itself. Then I went to a four-year university, and I got my Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics, which actually doesn't allow you to become a teacher. You also need something called your teaching certificate. So I decided to go back to school after that and get my teaching certificate. I was pretty young back then and hadn't quite decided what I wanted to do. I just knew I liked math. So I got my degree in mathematics and then realized I should probably go back and get something a little more useful that I can get a job with. Then I worked in 4 different high schools over 7 years and finally became an online teacher with the Graduation Alliance. So in a traditional high school, a typical day is you have to arrive before the students, so before school even starts. And then when the students get there, you usually give them like a warm-up activity. Usually it's kind of a review of the material from the day before. You usually teach new material and then give them some time to work on assignments. Some teachers have been trying to do something called a flipped classroom where they do the material via video and the students watch that at night and then work at the assignments in the classroom. So there can be some flexibility, but that was my normal day. Also, you usually are given time for some preparation called your prep period. I was on an A-B schedule, so on A days I taught 4 certain classes, on B days I taught 4 other classes, and each day I had a prep period where I could grade, I could create new assignments, I could prepare new lessons. So it's a good thing because you need that extra time to actually not be teaching, but to do the preparation for teaching. And once a week, we would meet with the other teachers. We'd be trying to share material. We'd be trying to decide, if we needed new textbooks, decide on new ways to do our teaching. It was just a way to increase our effectiveness as teachers. In an online high school, some days I work from home and some days I go to the office. You don't always only work from home if you're an online teacher. A lot of places make you come in every day, so it's not necessarily that you get to work from home all the time. I usually start by grading assignments. I'll answer student questions and contact students throughout the day. I also usually set up tutoring sessions to do with students where I actually go through how to do problems on the phone with a student using like an online whiteboard so we can both see the actual work. I set assignment and test retries. I try to go back through the lessons we've created and make sure there's no mistakes so that we can fix those, and maybe even create some new lessons if we need them. And I still work with my colleagues. Here it's more of I just go up and talk to them instead of having a set aside time where we actually have an actual meeting. So it's a lot more flexible with the online high school. And this, doesn't necessarily have to happen in any order. I just do what I need to at the time, get in all my hours, and try and help all my students. So what I liked about teaching, one thing is I like the content area. I like math, and so I wanted to share that like of math with other people. In traditional schools, I did enjoy summers off. That is a great benefit of being a teacher is you get that summer off. And lots of breaks throughout the year. You get Christmas break and spring break, and usually there's a fall break. There's a lot of holidays. But you don't get many sick days because of that. It was sometimes hard to take a day off. Um, and it's hard to prepare for a substitute when you do take a day off. I also enjoyed building relationships with my students and helping them. I wanted to help them succeed at school or hopefully come to like math or at least get through math, and be able to move on and succeed in whatever career they want to move on to. In the online teaching, I really enjoy that I don't have any classroom management. When you're trying to do classroom management, you're trying to keep your classroom under control and engaged and focused. So it's easier where I'm online because I don't have to do that. Everyone's working at their own pace. There's no, students trying to interact with each other instead and ignoring the lessons. So it's nice not to have to do that anymore. There's less paperwork. Everything's online, so a lot of things are just automatically graded for me. But I still get that opportunity to build relationships and to help students succeed. I love when I hear students say, oh, I thought I wasn't good at math, but I can do math now, or I didn't even like math, and now I do like math, or just, I'm glad I'm done, I'm glad I'm graduated. I know I'm not going to convince everyone to like my content, but it is fun when I get to hear that. Some challenges for both is motivation, getting students to stay focused and to be willing to do the work when they are trying to learn the material. Sometimes even with the prep periods, you don't feel like you have enough time to prepare lessons and to grade in a traditional school. I often would have to grade on weekends or stay late in the afternoon. It is kind of an intensive job where even though it seems like you don't work as many hours, you still have to put in some extra work after hours to make sure everything gets done. And it was also frustrating in a traditional school of keeping students to due dates. I'd often have students who'd come at the very last week and say, can I turn everything in now, which makes it harder for the teacher because then you have to rush and get everything completed and spend even more time after hours getting everything graded before the end of term because you have to meet your own deadline. Online, sometimes it's hard to get in contact with students. If a student's not regularly checking their email or regularly checking their chats, or they don't recognize your number when you text them, they may not respond. So it can be difficult just to get in contact with students in order to say, hey, let's get you in for some tutoring or some help. And just like regular school, motivation is always an issue wherever you are as a teacher. Skills, you'll really need some skills in technology. Most schools try to integrate technology. When I worked in a traditional school, I had a smart board where you are writing on a smart board and can bring up images. It's kind of like a giant tablet that you use as your board. You also often have to do teacher websites. There's usually requirements with your school district of you need this website where students can go and get their information about your class. So good skills with technology are often just super needed. I created a lot of YouTube videos and had to post those so that if a student missed a class, they could watch the material. So you just need to be really flexible with technology and willing to learn new technologies or new programs. You also need a strong knowledge base in your content area. So like for my content area is mathematics. I had to have a strong base in mathematics, and most states make you prove that by doing a test yourself. If you're going to be a math teacher, you have to prove, I know enough math to do that teaching. And then you also need the ability to break that knowledge down for new learners. It's one thing to know how to do something, but explaining it, and you build up over the years different questions students ask. And so you kind of have the ability, the longer you do it, to say, okay, I know a common question for this topic is going to be this, this, and this, and you try and address that beforehand. But that is an ability you need so that you can effectively teach. In a traditional school, you also need those classroom management skills. You need the ability, I would have, 30 to 40 students at once. Depending on what state you're in, you might not have as many or you might have more. It really depends on what state you're in as to if they limit your class size. So you need to be able to get 30 people to focus all on the same thing, or at least not distract the other people who are focused. So you need the ability to try and get people to do what you want, which that one's a hard one for me. Um, I kept trying to learn year after year new techniques to help people keep focused and motivated. And then the ability to engage students in the content. You don't want them to just be quiet. You want them to actually be interactive with the material and to be able to ask questions and feel safe to think of new ideas in the content. That's also a difficult skill. Usually your first year, you're going to just feel like you don't know what you're doing. But year after year, you build up more and more skills in classroom management and engaging students. And then what I would do differently. So like I said in the beginning, I went and got my bachelor's in mathematics, which is kind of hard to find a job with. In any decision, in any career, if you're going to go to college, you want to make sure it's something marketable. If you just get a math degree or just an English degree, they're usually not as marketable. It's actually kind of hard to find jobs with just that kind of a degree. So I wish I'd gotten my math teaching degree, because that would have been just 4 years instead of 4 plus 2 more for my teaching certificate. And most states will pay you more if you have your master's degree in your math teaching or some sort of master's degree related to teaching. There's actually kind of a couple of different ones, like you could do like curriculum degree where you're creating content, or you could do administrative degrees where you move on to be a vice principal or principal. So I wish I had done that, because I would have made more money more quickly. I wish I had integrated more online assignments that can be automatically graded when I was a traditional teacher. Any way you can reduce that paperwork so that you don't have to work as many after hours extra work is very beneficial. So if I ever went back to traditional teaching, I would take my knowledge from online teaching and use that to make more online automatically graded stuff where students could immediately know if they got the question right or wrong, and I could give immediate feedback of, this is why when you pick this answer, that it's actually incorrect, this is how you fix it. And just like I said, classroom management skills was always a weakness for me. And I think it's a difficult one for most teachers to, there's so many different personality types when you're trying to work with 30 or 40 people, often with a lot of them who don't want to be there. So getting students to focus and be motivated, and to just like your class, it can be difficult. So I would want more skills in that, more practice in helping manage that many people at once. If you're considering teaching as a career, I just hope you keep those things in mind, that there are some benefits, but there are some challenges, and it can be a very rewarding career, but it does take a lot more effort than people might initially think.